We just got maps that Brian Hooker gave to investigators showing what he says happened the night his wife disappeared. This image shows where he says his wife Lynette fell in around 7:30 p.m. and also where the dinghy eventually landed the next day. Jerika, Brian Hooker remains in custody tonight. Importantly, he has not been charged with a crime. It comes as CBS News has also obtained a new audio recording of Brian in the days following his wife's disappearance.
Every single thing. We weren't wearing life jackets. It was sundown, and the sun set like basically 10 minutes after she fell over. Dinghy key over with her because it wasn't clipped to anything or anybody. And she had the spare dinghy key in her dry bag, which was with her.
So a phone call from Brian to one of his friends was recorded. So this guy recorded the conversation and released what Brian said and all the details. So Brian gets into details, pretty much what has happened. Plus, not only that, an Apple Watch has been found allegedly that belongs to Lynette, and there's also images of a map release that shows where she should have fell at and just all kind of details. And a security guard came out and said that, hey, when I saw Brian, he was drunk. Stay tuned, Fugitive TV. Welcome to Fugitive TV. I am your host, Ray Marcel. And what we do here is we take a look at cases of missing individuals, cases that need a bigger spotlight, or a deep dive into certain cases. And in some of these cases, we take a look at it from a different point of view, sometimes from the criminal standpoint or the criminal mind. Because see, I was once a fugitive on the run from the law. I ran for about 15 years. I lived in different countries under different names. After I committed some white collar crime, I turned myself in. Now I'm a motivational speaker. I own several companies. And what I do is on this YouTube channel, I help family members locate missing individuals, even outside of YouTube. Right now, we're going to get into the case of Lynette and Brian Hooker. I did a couple videos already. I did the first video when she first went missing. And then also with the first story that the husband told the police. Then I followed that up with another video about what he told a friend. It was a little bit different than what he told the police. Well, right now in this video, we're going to get into a voicemail, or I should say a phone call that was recorded. So Brian talked to a friend of his, and he was explaining pretty much in full detail what happened that day.
He was questioned in relation to causing harm, which resulted in her death, but we have no evidence.
Hooker has not been charged and denies harming Lynette. Police searched the couple's sailboat and collected electronic devices. Brian told police that his wife fell off their dinghy into strong currents Saturday evening. Blaine and Marnie Stevenson say they have been friends with the couple since 2023. Blaine spoke to Brian after Lynette went missing and said he recorded the call. CBS has verified this recording.
I threw her a flotation cushion that we used to sit on the dinghy, right after she went in.
They released a recording of their call because they think it could help find Lynette.
I want people out there looking for a real live human being.
So in this voice recording, Brian explains in full detail what happened that night, actually, when Lynette allegedly fell off the dinghy. Now, for you guys that don't know about the story whatsoever, Lynette Hooker is an American woman who is missing right now in the ocean off of, around the, I believe it's the Bahamas area. And they were in this area called, I think it's Clay or Clay Bar. I'm not familiar because I've never been out there at all. In Hopetown. So they were on this dinghy, and a dinghy is a little boat. It's an 8 foot long boat they were on. And it's a little boat that you take from the shore to get to the big boat is what you do with a dinghy. Okay. So they went out to eat, went to a restaurant, got on this 8-foot dinghy, and was headed out to the bigger boat, the sailboat or yacht, whatever they have out there. Well, on their way out to the sailboat, Lynette allegedly fell off the dinghy. And when she fell off the dinghy, the first story we heard, Brian said that when she fell off the dinghy, the current pushed her away from the dinghy and she started swimming towards shore. That was the first story that we were told. And when she fell off, apparently she had the keys to the engine because there's a little motor on the dinghy. So apparently she had the keys to the engine, and when she fell off, because she had the keys, the engine shut off. Okay. So he had to apparently spend, I think it's right, 8 to 9 hours paddling back to shore, okay, before he can even report her missing. Now, this is the story that we first heard when this first happened. And my question right away was, well, if she fell overboard, I should not even really over. You're on a dinghy. I mean, the water's literally like right there. Okay. It's not like you're on a big boat and you fall and you're falling feet down. No, it's literally right there. It's like falling off of your couch onto the floor. Okay. If not even closer. All right. So a lot of people are looking at the story like this does not make sense. How does she, get separated from you so fast when you just, I guess, fell off? She fell off, right? So how'd you get separated so fast? Now, he's saying the current and the wind, could cause a person to fall off, which that is possible. But we were still wondering how that happened so fast. Now, he said that because of the current, it separated her from the dinghy, right? Now, at first he said she was swimming towards shore. So I'm thinking, hey, if she's swimming towards shore, maybe because the current's pushing her towards shore. So she's being smart and swimming with the current. But then if the current was pushing her towards shore, wouldn't that push the dinghy with her? You would think the dinghy would get pushed with her to shore. That's what you would think, right? So that's why I'm like, 8 hours to paddle back to shore when you could have helped use the current. It just didn't make sense. Then allegedly he threw a flotation device to her that he left a voicemail recording, which we listened to in our video, or the video I did before this one. So if you want to go listen to that, there's a voicemail recording he left to his stepdaughter saying, hey, they found a flotation device that I threw to your mom. Now, Brian and Lynette, they were married for about 25 years. And Lynette has a daughter from her previous before Brian, okay? Carly. Carly has came out and said that there's been violence in this relationship. She's also said that Brian has children of his own and that he choked out his daughter who's 12. We found out the age now. She's apparently was 12 at the time. Choked her out, and Lynette had to break it up. Police was called. He had to go to court over all of that, and I guess charges were dropped. Everything was dropped. It was dismissed. Okay. Now, Lynette's mom went on Ashley Banfield.
Oh, I mean, what was it like when you got that phone call from Brian 24 hours after Lynette went missing?
With the lifestyle that my daughter and her husband lived, I had been preparing for that phone call for a long time. So it was short. I have news to tell you. Lynette's missing. Pretty much all that was said. And so later on in the day, I had to call him back. I said, I need more details. I said, this is not enough. And so he went through his day with me, and I broke down. So, I mean, what else would I do,
It's distressing to hear you say that with the lifestyle, it wasn't an unexpected call. Talk to me more about that.
There was a lot of good times and bad times in my daughter's relationship with her husband. A lot of highs and a lot of lows. When it was fun, it was really fun.
Okay, so if you didn't see this interview, go to Ashley Banfield, make sure you watch the whole interview. But she went on Ashley Banfield and she actually revealed that, hey, there has been violence.
And the fact that she had left him on numerous occasions before and continued to go back even after she had been hurt was something that was very difficult for me to understand. And I did a lot of crying, and I had to prepare myself for what I thought was someday going to happen, unless she finally decided she had had enough. I think they loved each other, but they were not good for each other.
Now, in my last video, I showed you guys there was, in 2015, there was a domestic disturbance call to their house But Lynette was arrested because when the police showed up, they saw Brian had a bloody nose. So they took Lynette into custody. Well, Lynette's mom went on Ashley Banfield and she tells the whole story. She said they both got into a physical altercation and that he was choking her out. He also punched her, but she said at that time it didn't show up. So the next day, I guess she had a black eye, but it didn't show up at that time. And because when police arrived, they saw he had blood on his face and she didn't have any marks at that time, they decided to arrest her and take her to jail, okay? But she said that when he drinks, he switches, he gets evil. And he has a tendency of using his hands and choking people.
When Brian drank, Brian could be mean, hateful, say unpleasant things. And that pretty much describes him. He also got physical. This is not the first time there's been where I thought I was lucky to have Lynette in the past. This time it's just like it just progressively got worse.
And there was a report that one of their neighbors actually came out and said that when he drinks, that he has a tendency to get violent and evil. Even the neighbor said this. The neighbor said there's no middle with Brian. You're either really nice, he's a nice guy, or when he drinks, he gets really evil and really mad. So the mom has pretty much came out and verified that, all right? She said, that it was just violence and they shouldn't have been together. She said she thinks they loved each other, but they weren't good for each other. Now, Brian's stepmom has came out and spoke too. Brian's stepmom is actually saying that she doesn't really recall any violence or anything like that.
Brian was a quiet person, but she never had any indication that he was ever violent.
I can't comprehend it because of knowing him like I do, I don't understand.
Donna Hooker says she's heartbroken about the news she's been hearing about her stepson, Brian Hooker. He's being held in the Bahamas in connection to the disappearance of his wife, Lynette Hooker, after falling out of a dinghy last weekend. She says the last time she saw her stepson, who was a teenager when she and his father, George, were married, was after George had a stroke in 2021.
Everything seemed to be really good. I mean, with Brian and George, and I asked Brian, where's Lynette? And he said, well, we're not getting along. We're separated.
She doesn't really say too much, so I guess maybe she was kept out of the loop out of it, right? Because think about it. If Brian is doing these things, he's not going to call his mom, hey, I just choked her out. I just hit her. He's not going to do that, right? Now, let's take a listen to the recorded call so you can hear the call that he left, all right? Like I said, this call, he gets really into detail. And I want you guys to listen to this call and let me know what you think.
Really, she was the best part of this relationship. Frankly, it's incredible. Like in the literal sense, she basically just bounced off the dinghy in the middle of a little blow, like 20-some knot winds that popped up, and single thing failed. Every single thing. We weren't wearing life jackets. It was sundown, and the sun set, like, basically 10 minutes after she fell over. Dinghy key over with her because it wasn't clipped to anything or anybody. And she had the spare dinghy key in her dry bag, which was with her. The wind blew us apart so fast that I think she tried to swim back to the sailboat, back to our sailboat, which was probably, I don't know, 1,000 yards or something. I yelled to her that I lost an oar, and I threw the anchor out and anchored the dinghy, and I yelled. I couldn't see her anymore. It was the moon had not risen yet, and the waves were doing their thing. And I saw her, I think, twice. I threw her a flotation cushion that we used to sit on the dinghy, right after she went in. But I couldn't tell if she got it or not. We've been looking for the cushion too. But it's amazing how small a person is in 2 or 3 floaters and 25-knot winds. So after an hour of calling her, I could have never heard her voice. By the time I got the anchor set, I was probably a quarter to a half a mile away from her, and I decided I had to go get help. But I could not get to the island with one paddle. Many hours until I landed on Marsh Island, about 4 miles away. The cops got there like 4 in the morning, but they didn't get searched at 4:30, and we didn't get rolled out until 5. And by then, she had been in the water for 8 hours, and by midnight, I was already freaking out. So the dinghy, I landed in some crazy spot, like a movie. It was a little tiny 50-yard wide lagoon full of rocks, and I beached it, and the cops, of course, are there thoroughly investigating me right now. So they came and tied the dinghy up. I just got the dinghy back today, and got the boat back to the harbor from where the anchorage was. So I have to rig some switches so I can single-hand it back there and conduct my own searches. It's a story. They asked me today, the cops called me up and asked me how long I would be in the Bahamas till I get my wife back. And so that's my goal. I canceled everything we were going back home for, and I'm going to renew my visa and stay here. By day, I was keeping a very stiff upper lip because she is strong. You know, I mean, she's a regular swimmer, not like a athlete or anything, but she's determined. And it was a cascade of failures, and it's something I'm never going to forgive myself. We stayed too long. We left too dark. All kinds of no life jackets. I threw the dinghy out last, or the anchor out last instead of first. Can't really explain it. You know, I just know that I hate this boat, and if she doesn't come back, I'm never getting on the boat. I'm going to sell this and never go here. Every single thing that's good on it came from her. Every cute idea and awesome idea. I just fixed but she really created and so wear your fucking life jackets.
All right, so did you guys hear that? Did you listen to that? I don't know if it's me, but the story keeps changing a little bit. For one, at first, like I said, the very first time he said she was swimming towards shore, they got separated. Then he says that she started swimming towards the big boat. That didn't make any sense to me whatsoever. He also says, because we were all wondering, a question was brought up to me by a viewer after my last video. They said, what about the anchor? Did he anchor the dinghy, or was the anchor missing? Could he have possibly tied the anchor to her? And I was like, oh, that's a great question. I didn't even think about that. So he did say he anchored the dinghy, but that was like the last thing he did. So if he anchored the dinghy, how was he blown away for the wind? I have no idea what is going on here. What is going on? If she was swimming towards the boat, you decided to swim back to shore? Stuff's just not adding up. It's not adding up. And on top of that, apparently or allegedly, she was a half mile away from him. A half mile is what allegedly is said. But help, or to get help, is 4 miles away. So instead of trying to, I guess, make up that half mile and go to her, you want to paddle 4 miles to shore? Because remember, he apparently paddled with one oar. Paddled with one oar. And my next thing is, what about a cell phone? Did any of them have a cell phone? I think I asked this question before. Now, I'm going to read to you a couple articles, some more details on this that wasn't brought up in my last video. That I'm going to bring up now, okay? So let me get to this. All right, so this is an article from AOL. It says, Missing American's husband had spotty cell service during an 8-hour trek to report disappearance. So remember, I told you it took him 8 hours, apparently, to get back to shore to report her missing, okay? Bahama officials said Lynette Hooker, 56, and Brian Hooker, 58, departed from Hopetown Tobacco Inn at around 7:30 p.m. on April 4th. So we know those details, and they were headed back to the bigger boat, okay? Now, local authorities said that Brian Hooker arrived at a marina at Marsh Harbor at around 4 a.m. on April 5th, roughly 8 hours after Lynette Hooker went overboard. Do you really call that overboard? Like just falling off something like that? Do you still consider that overboard? Let me know. When I think of overboard, I'm thinking falling out of a big boat, not falling off a dinghy, but let me know. A staff member at the Marsh Harbor Marine told Fox News Digital that the husband walked along the south shoreline before arriving at the dock area, which may have required covering a significant distance on foot once at the marina. He went to an office and reported that his wife was missing, prompting a staff to call police. So he made it to the Marsh Harbor Marina, okay? Then I guess was walking along the shore until he reached help. And this is the marina, right? Oh, I'm sorry. This is where they left from, the Tobacco Inn. That's where they left from. Now, it says what remains unclear is whether Brian Hooker had access to his phone or self-service during those 8 hours on the water. His attorney didn't respond to the request for comment from Fox News Digital. So I'm not the only person asking about cell phone service. It looks like they even asked the attorney, but they're not responding. Interesting, right? So it goes on to say, Lynette's daughter, Carly's the one who came out first and said that Brian and her mom, Lynette, had a violent history. So she's the one that came out and said first. But Lynette's daughter, Carly, told Fox News Digital that the couple usually carried phones on them while boating. Then it says, a telecommunications company told Fox News Digital individuals can likely receive cell phone reception even if it's spotty over the 4.5-mile channel Brian Hooker paddled with his dinghy. He said, however, some of the more remote Bahama keys didn't get cell service. If it's a remote key like some of those remote keys in the Bahamas, it would be just as if you were in the ocean and not by land, because if there's no cell phone towers, which makes sense. Criminal defense attorney Donna Rotuno told Fox News Digital it would be difficult to prove if Brian Hooker's phone had service if investigators determined he had access to it. So I do have something. How many of us have been to the beach? Right? How many of us have been to the beach? I'm here in Florida. I'm surrounded by the beach. Now, I can see if you're out maybe 5 miles, okay, from shore. If you're out 5 miles from shore, and yeah, you might not have the best cell phone service. You might not have, so I can see that. But once you start getting towards shore, your phone should start working. Your phone should be working on the beach. Have any of you guys been here before? Does your phone not work at all on this beach? So you would think your phone, as you're getting closer, would start working. You would think you would probably have your phone in your hand or right by you or looking at it as you're paddling, whatever you're doing, waiting for those bars to go up. We all seen movies, right, where they're all panicking, waiting for those bars to go up so they can make that call. So what he didn't think about calling anybody. He went to the beach, got on shore, and then it said he walked a long distance before he even reported her missing. So he got to shore, didn't think about using his phone. Things just don't add up. It just don't add up. Now, it says they may be able to show whether or not he was trying to conduct an ongoing call, and he couldn't. But then again, if you're on some paddle boat trying to, my guess, as if he jumped in the water or if he tried to help her in any way, the phone was either left on the boat or the phone is in his pocket, then useless because of the water. Well, we know he did not jump in the water. So we could take that and throw that out the window. The man didn't even try to jump in to save his wife. I don't understand that part. I don't get it. As soon as she fell over, if you got flotation devices, as soon as she fell over, that would be the first thing you would want to grab. And grab this, you know, at least grab it and put it on yourself, so at least you can jump in and try and save her because you got the flotation device on. So at least jump in and try and do what you have to do. I don't know, something, right? You would think. Very odd, very weird. I have lots of questions. Now, the report also goes on saying Brian Hooker's lawyer, Terrell Butler, told Fox News Digital she doesn't know whether her client had a cell phone on him the night. Yeah, she knows. She knows. I'm pretty sure she asked that question. If I was a lawyer, I would ask. If I was offending him, did you have your cell phone on you? I would ask. Whether or not Brian Hooker had self-service, one local told Fox News Digital that the journey to Marsh Harbor presented a formidable physical challenge. A man who knew Brian and Lynette Hooker told Fox News Digital that paddling 4.5 miles from near Hope Town to Marsh Harbor without a working engine, which is what officials say Brian Hooker did, was a significant achievement. To row 4 miles, the oars suck on the dinghies, and they're very difficult to go anywhere. To row 4 is a pretty much he's saying you got to be Hercules to do that. We upgraded our oars because we couldn't go anywhere with the stock oars. And it's really, he's saying it's really a hard task. It's really a strong task. And it says a lot that he was able to even physically row that distance in the conditions. Butler said on Friday that police were questioning Brian Hooker on a potential charge of causing harm resulting in death. The interview went from 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., Butler said. Police, however, didn't question him about any physical or forensic evidence found, further focusing on what the couple was doing in the Bahamas and what happened in the hours prior to Lynette. Now, we're going to get into what they were doing, and we're going to get into when he walked and reported her missing, what the security guard said about him. See, this is stuff that the big media is not telling us, little details that I had in my last video. I asked, so were they out drinking? Were they both drunk? Well, wait till the security guard says on the next article. We're going to get in that, okay? But we're going to finish this one first by AOL. It says, Mr. Hooker denies any wrongdoing, in particular the allegations recently made by Carly. He's been cooperating with the authorities. So basically he's saying Carly is lying, that he's never done nothing, no stuff like this. That's what he's saying. So basically, because he's saying this, now I guess he's saying that Lynette's mom is also lying, okay? He's probably also saying that the court records are lying, that he really didn't choke out his daughter. They're lying too, all right? So when he made it back to shore and finally, I guess, walked and, reported her missing, this is apparently the first person he came in contact with, all right? This is from the Daily Mail. All right, so the 59-year-old told night watchman Edward Smith, 56, the couple had been returning to their 50-foot sailboat, which is called Soulmate, from Elbow Cay, when my wife was just thrown out of the boat in atrocious water. So that's what he told the person. But according to Smith, Hooker did not appear hysterical or emotional. He wasn't crying or anything. He didn't seem stressed in that way. There wasn't a lot of emotion. There were no tears. He's saying there was nothing. He expressed nothing that you would imagine in those circumstances. He was more exhausted than emotional because he kept asking for water. He drank and kept asking for more. He had some water from my cooler. I then gave him another liter. He drank that down, and then he went and got more. Hooker ditched the dinghy just south of the boat yard where Smith works in Marsh Harbor on the main grate, which is Abaco Island, around 4 a.m. Sunday, and stumbled along rocks until he found rescuers. And here's Brian. That's Brian right there. That's them on. So I'm thinking that this right here might be the same dinghy, but this is what a dinghy is right here. Okay, so this is what they were on. All right. So this is what I mean by if you fall over on that thing, I mean, it's not, you just tip over. You just tip over, right? So it's not like you fell like feet down. It's just very odd. Now, it goes on to say he has been alone in an 8-foot vessel after Lynette plunged over the side around 7:30 p.m. Saturday. taking with her the engine's kill switch key, which was attached to her by a cord. That cut the tiny vessel's power. According to his account to the security guard, Hooker battled more than 8 hours and with just one paddle to the cover around 7 miles to shore, the main island, after losing sight of his wife. So he had one paddle and paddled the whole time with that one paddle is what he's saying. Smith told the Daily Mail, I said to him, why on earth go out in that small boat in the dark in those conditions? He did show some emotion when he said, we were drinking. We were drunk. I should have known better. I shouldn't have done it. So he was drinking. He admitted he was drunk. I asked you guys before in my last video, because I'm not a boater. I said, is it against the law? Is it illegal to be operating any sort of a boat, even a dinghy, while under the influence? Everybody who commented on that video said yes. So if this is the case, if he's admitting that he was drunk and he's drinking, shouldn't this be a charge? Should this be a charge? Now, here's the thing with this though too. He admitted he's drinking, he admitted he's drunk, but so far yet, he's never admitted that he was driving the dinghy. He said Lynette had the key. So if Lynette has the key, is he saying that she was driving? So why would she be driving in those so-called harsh conditions? Okay, if that's the case, why would she be doing these harsh conditions? Everybody who's spoken on this that knows them says that he was always driving. Now, if you look at this closely, you see this is the dinghy, right? And this right here is a little black bar. I don't know what you call that, but I do know that's what you grab onto with one hand and you control the direction. It goes back and forth of how you're driving. So that's the person that does that. So if she fell overboard and if she had the key, which I guess like maybe she was driving, is what he's saying. She's the one holding on to this, right? So shouldn't she have a little more leverage, I guess? You know, if she was the one holding on, you would think that she's the one with the leverage holding on to something, not him. You would think it would be him falling over. I don't know. Like I said, I have plenty of questions. So let's get finished with this. But then he added, whatever happened, happened. The wind was blowing so hard when it happened, she just went over. Smith continued, Mr. Hooker said he was trying to paddle to get backwards or back towards the lady, but he said he only had one paddle and the wind was so strong it blew him away from her in the dark, so he couldn't see where she was. He said the last time he saw her, she was swimming towards Hope Town on Elbow Cay, but it was so dark he could not be clear. He then lost sight of her. So once again, in this story right here, it looks like he's saying that she swam towards Hope Town on Elbow Cay. So she was swimming towards shore or a shore, not the boat. So which one is it? Was she swimming towards the boat that's out in the water, or was she swimming towards a shore? Which one is it? Because the stories are flip-flapping. He said the last time he saw her, she was swimming towards Hope Town on Elbow Cay, but it was so dark he could not be clear. He then lost sight of her. He said after she went overboard, after she went over, a boat passed by and he shot up a flare, but the boat didn't see it. Then a couple minutes later, another boat passed and he shot up another flare. They also didn't see the flare. So he's shooting up flares apparently, and he's saying the boats never saw it. Now, if he did shoot up a flare, there should be evidence of that. I think there's evidence, right? When you shoot a flare, would there be evidence? You guys let me know. If somebody shot a flare, would there be evidence that you shot that? Let me know. Like I said, I'm not a boater. I don't know. I asked him, where's your wife now? He said, she's still in the water. I immediately stopped talking and called 911, and they called the police, who arrived 10 minutes later. So you mean to tell me that when he got to the security guard, it took him all this time to say she's still in the water? How long were they talking before he said, hey, she's still in the water? So security guard's talking to this man. Then he's like, wait, hold on. Where is she? She's still in the water. So he didn't come up to her like, I'll come up to him like, hey, my wife is lost in the sea. We need to call 911. Officers started questioning him straight away. I didn't hear what they were asking because they were inside the security booth. They were still questioning him at 7 a.m. when I went off my watch. Hooker was taken to Freeport on the island of Grand Bahamas on Thursday evening, where he would be continuing to be questioned by the Royal Bahama Police. Now, it goes on to say, but there has been no sign of Lynette. Former fisherman Smith believes sharks would have pounced within minutes, a belief backed up by highly experienced high-end boat skipper who also spoke with the Daily Mail. Those waters where she went in are full of bull sharks, and they can be monsters, said Smith. Everything around there is bull sharks. They'd get straight. Basically, he's saying they would have attacked her. They would have pounced her right away. It's what they're saying. Locals in Marsh Harbor who knew the hooker said it was well known Lynette always drove the dinghy and so would have the kill switch key attached to her. So locals are saying, okay, who knew the hooker said it was well known Lynette always drove the dinghy and so would have the kill switch attached to her. They did not report outward signs of tension between them, despite accusations by Lynette's daughter, Carly, and then, of course, the mom now. The couple from Onsted, Michigan were 4 years into a voyage they were documenting on social media that had started in Texas and drifted to the Bahamas via Florida. All right. Now, this also goes on to say, I understand their boat was I understand their boat was around a mile from the restaurant, so very little distance, but the weather that night was appalling, he said. The wind gusts were up to 20 miles per hour, and even in sheltered spots, the chop would have been 3 feet high. Outside, it could have been 6 feet. First going out in that and an 8-foot dinghy was crazy. So basically, they're saying they shouldn't even went out in the first place, and he even admitted that they shouldn't went out in the first place. I don't know if there was foul play, but someone could easily tip over, especially if there were alcohol involved. If Mr. Hooker was paddling, he would have been swept in the opposite direction to Elbow Key. That is a reasonable explanation for him being there. The skipper, who declined to be named, explained Hooker's dilemma. If this version of the events is true, once someone is out of a boat like that, it instantly becomes lighter and faster. If Lynette was on Elbow Key side of the dinghy, the small boat would have been moving away from her pretty quickly. That's not to say Brian couldn't have battled to stay steady with whatever paddle he had. At that time, it wasn't actually that super dark, unless she was knocked out and she could have swum. So basically, he's saying that it is possible at that time for her to fall out and for them to get separated, okay? But he did say that there was light out still. He should be able to see her. Now, remember, in that voicemail or that recorded call, he said he couldn't see her. It was too dark. This guy's saying the light was still out. He's also saying that there's possible that he could have kept his paddle or used it to kind of stay, I guess, with her, which makes sense. The guy, if he paddled 4 miles back to shore, which in the other article I told you guys, it said that, hey, that's a feat in itself. I mean, I guess he could have did that, right? Now, remember, he is ex-military too. Now, this article goes on to say, but only 2 people can tell what you would happen that night, which is one, him and her. And one of them is dead. I believe unless they find her body, he will walk free. If he isn't prosecuted, the court of public opinion will do the rest. And the chances of finding her are next to slim. It's simply not a question that she's going to wash up someplace. He added anonymously, bodies sink fast. They only start to rise when they decompose. But one round here, the sharks get to them. Before that, if she was bleeding when she entered the water, it would have been over within minutes. Authorities say that there is a recovery operation to find the body, but the skipper revealed the U.S. Coast Guard's high-tech imaging aircraft had scanned the areas. So right now they're using high-tech aircraft to scan the areas. Let me see if there's anything else significant in here. So we already confirmed right now that they were drinking. And what happens when they drink? They get violent. Oh, very sad situation. Very sad situation. I'm just seeing if there's anything else in here worth reading that we already don't know. All right. Now it says Hooker himself fell overboard from a police transit after being on Wednesday night. So, yes, when they arrested him, well, first of all, I guess they all went out to the big sailboat. And then from the sailboat, I don't know if they found evidence of anything, but they took him into custody. Okay, so sorry, not arrested, but took him into custody. They put him in handcuffs, put him on the dinghy, and then he fell over the dinghy too. Now, this right here is screenshots of a map that apparently Brian has sent to somebody. Now, he keeps sending out these things to friends, messages, recorded voicemail, all kind of things. So this one right here says Brian sent images of maps to his friends and other boaters, telling them the drawing reportedly showed where his wife Lynette went missing in the Bahamas last week. He allegedly also sent them to law enforcement. Brian Hooker shared the images with friends who gave them to CBS News in the days following his wife's disappearance. And during the initial search and rescue, he told his friends that he drew up the maps to help search and rescue team. The images may provide the most detailed accounts of Brian Hooker's version of the events. Lynette Hooker is from Michigan, has been missing since Sunday. So here is one image that he took. So I blew these up actually. So here we can look at this. This right here is the first image, okay? So apparently he took this and it says drift in the paddle 4 miles west. This is where he anchored the dinghy, apparently. The red line Lynette fell in at. Then he shows this image right here. This is showing the route, I guess, the dinghy took. So this right here, the red line, is apparently the route that the dinghy took. As you see, it crossed from this shore all the way to the other shore is what it looks like is going on right here. Then we have another image. So these images appear to be screenshots from the as I believe it's pronounced Navionics, a GPS app that boaters use to navigate, drawn over to mark areas such as the alleged dinghy route the night Lynette Hooker disappeared and where Brian Hooker claims that she went overboard. Okay, so apparently I guess these are images from that app. Hopetown Fire and Rescue would not comment about the images, citing the ongoing investigation. Of course they're not, because they're, they don't want to give anything up, right? Then it goes on to tell you, that everything that happened. I mean, so what do you guys think about all of this that I showed you guys? So he did admit, and he said he was drinking. Okay. Apparently, I guess she was the one driving, which is funny. The family says, and then a couple other friends said Brian was always driving. And then the daughter says Brian was always driving. But then I just read you, it said some locals said that she was always driving the dinghy. I don't know. Very weird. I wonder who the locals were, because they didn't give a name who these people were. So we don't know who said that. So if she's the one driving, he's basically saying that, hey, she's the one responsible for her own demise, is what he's saying. Because if he was drinking and driving, you would think that would be a charge. Now, I do question if he actually went to the sailboat or not. I'm questioning that, if he actually went to the sailboat or not. One of the friends is even questioning that. Why didn't he go to the sailboat to see if she swam to the sailboat as well? But I wonder if he actually did go there, and, if there's something being left out of the story. And the sad part about this, here's this very sad part, that even if this was an accident, even if she did fall in, nobody's going to believe him ever, because of the history that they had. So they're not going to believe him because he has a history of choking women. He's threatened to choke her and throw her overboard, is what Carly has said, allegedly, but there's a record of it on court of him choking out his daughter. So that's not deniable. That is a record of that. Even though charges, I guess, were dismissed, he still had to go to court for that. Was he found guilty? No. But there's just a lot of questions going on, as in, why did he take so long to throw a flotation device? Why didn't he try? Like, you think there would be more he could have done, okay? Did he try to use his phone? Now, speaking of phones, apparently her Apple Watch was found on the beach. Now, they're not saying if they think the Apple Watch was washed up from shore. They're not saying that part. They're not saying if it looks like, it was damaged or anything, but apparently her Apple Watch was found on the beach. So, did she lose the Apple Watch before they got on the dinghy? And which beach did they find it on? Did they find it on the beach she left from? Did they find it on the beach where he ended up paddling to? Was it some other beach way out? Because that's all going to play a factor. It is, because let's say they found it on the beach that she left from. Okay, that could be saying that could be a case that she lost her Apple Watch. If they found on the beach they left from, it can easily be said, well, she dropped it, lost it, or something, and probably didn't realize it. All right, that could be easily said. Another thing that could be easily said is, did he do something to her before they even went out and caused her Apple Watch to fall in the water or, on the beach? Right? Now, if her Apple Watch washed up somewhere like a third spot, totally different, now you're looking at the Apple Watch probably was in the ocean and it probably washed up ashore, totally different than where, who knows, right? If the Apple Watch was on the same shore that he went to or landed to, did he drop the watch? You get where I'm going? Is this why they arrested him? Or they took him in for questioning, I should say? I don't know. But apparently they found a watch, but they're not giving much details on where the watch is from or anything like that. Now, I did also read a report that apparently they were even having issues there in the Bahamas, that she was actually going to file for divorce in March. Now, I don't know if she actually filed, but apparently she was going to file in March for divorce. And not only that, she was going to fly back here to the States from the Bahamas. So there was issues apparently there. So were they arguing over that? Did he happen to lose his temper because they were drinking? Did something to her? Caused her to fall out? We don't know. We can only speculate. But you guys let me know about these details. Now, apparently they have until tomorrow, Monday, I believe around 7:30. I think it's 7:30 p.m. they can hold him to before they can charge him. So we're all going to be waiting tomorrow and see if they charge him or not, all right? Which is Monday. Tomorrow is Monday. But let me know below, what do you think about this? Do you think that, he did do something to her? Let me know. Or do you think this was an accident and he's just not showing emotion? I don't know. You guys let me know what you think below. Please like, subscribe, comment below. Everything. Comment where you're watching this from, city, state, country. I try to interact with everybody who leaves a comment. Please share this video because, this case does need spotlight, whether it was an accident or whether he did do this or not, So, and that's what I'm doing today, is trying to figure this out along with you guys, all right? Please help me reach 25,000 subscribers. I've reached that in a record amount of time. I'm one of the fastest growing YouTube channels out on YouTube, especially in the true crime sector. Thank you to you guys for helping me out. Now, when you go out, please be careful. Watch out for one another. Take care of one another. Look out for your surroundings and watch your surroundings, all right? Until next time, this is Fugitive TV. Take care. I'm out.